He went off to Hillsdale College. Jacob went off to the U.S. Marine Corps. Patty and I made a very difficult decision to leave. And the reason that we left had mostly to do with the kids, which is weird because the kids were already gone from the house. And so people would say, well, why would you leave when your kids are already gone? And the answer was, we're a very close family and I knew they would come home. And I didn't want them to come home to California. I wanted them to come home to some place where they wouldn't have to struggle quite as much, where there was a lot more opportunity. We chose Texas. I love Texas. I love the attitude of Texans and all that stuff. But, when people will tell me, well, Texas is beautiful too, it's like, yeah, they don't know. They just don't understand the difference. And I mean, there's certain things in Texas that are beautiful, but it's not California. I miss the mountain biking. I miss the skiing. I miss the high desert. There's so much in California. It's so beautiful. Down where Andrew lives, out in the desert, out in that area, Inland Empire. I spent a lot of time in Joshua Tree and Palm Desert and Palm Springs. I had a grandmother who lived in Palm Springs. So I've lived all over the state and I love that state. And because of that, I'll never give up on California. I left for my kids, but I will never give up on California. And I will never think that California is lost. And I don't know how you guys are feeling about the elections right now. It's pretty frustrating watching what's happening to Spencer Pratt in Los Angeles. Look at the numbers. I might have a little bit of a contrarian attitude. I'm not as surprised by the late numbers as some people are. I don't think they're as suspicious as some people think. I do think there's suspicious stuff about them. So I want to clarify, I want to be clear, but Democrats vote en masse by mail-in ballots. And this is their way, and they're trained to do it. And so what that means is those ballots get counted last. Republicans, we tend to vote on election day or maybe the few days leading up to election day. Those votes get counted first. So you should expect to see in states with heavy mail-in ballots, and we see this all the time where Republicans candidates are leading, and as the mail-ins get counted, they start to lose their lead. So I think some of that is legitimate. I saw really interesting mathematical regression review of the votes that Nithya Raman was getting hour by hour, and it's mathematically impossible. I mean, the way she was getting the votes is mathematically impossible. And there was a particular number by which her votes were increasing in every tranche. And it was times one, times two, times three, times four. The number was like 3.74%, times five, times six. And then she was in the lead, and that jump stopped. And it went back to normal progression, like what you would expect. Each tranche is going to be a different percentage for each candidate. There were 7 tranches where the percentages were exact. Whatever amount she increased by, her opponents lessened by, that's mathematically impossible. It's literally just cannot happen without a formula running somewhere. So I want to be clear. I do think, and we should always be careful as conservatives not to treat allegations as fact. This is something that the left does. They make an allegation that was corrupt, that person's whatever it is. And then it's fact because they say it. And one of the things that I try to do as a conservative, and also because I'm a lawyer, is an allegation is allegation and fact is a fact. And so when I start to see the formulas, that's starting to look more like fact to me. When people are just saying, it's just impossible, and they're throwing up their hands and screaming, yelling, those are allegations. And we should always be cautious as conservatives. We should also be incredibly skeptical because we know they cheat. We know that the entire election system in California is actually built for cheating. That is the specific setup of the election. The way that it's designed with all mail-in, very little signature verification. I saw them actually say you have to have a 40% match on signature. 40%. Doesn't even look like your signature. Just somebody wrote your name. And then that's when they verify, by the way. They don't always verify. That's sort of random verification. I saw that you can sign with a smiley face or an X if you say you can't sign your signature. You can have a witness who witnesses your mail-in ballot. You need a witness for that, right? Your witness signature is never checked. No, it's just a scribble. You can scribble a witness signature, put a smiley face for a signature. and that's a valid ballot. So when you have that and when you have mass mail-in balloting, you're going to have fraud. But I think one of the things that frustrates me about Republicans is when a system is set up in a particular way, then we need to work by those rules and try to win according to that game. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean in California. Rob McCoy is a pastor who I'm friends with in California. Really great guy. If you don't know who Rob is, you should know who Rob is. He was a serious COVID warrior. He was willing to go to jail, millions of dollars of fines against him. He and his church started doing massive ballot harvesting in the church legally. And what he did is they told everybody, bring your ballots to church, fill them out at church. They don't tell people how to vote, but fill them out at church, and we're going to take them for you, and you can put them in big boxes here in the church, and we will take them and drop them off. So that's ballot harvesting. That's entirely legal. In California, one person can drop off as many ballots as they want. You could drop off 10,000 ballots. It doesn't matter. And what the Democrats do in California, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but there's a machine. They know every person who received a Democrat ballot, and then they go out and they collect those ballots from those people door to door. And so this is how they get massive voter turnout. It's not that the voters would turn out. It's not that they would go anywhere to vote. It's not even that they would mail in their ballots. It's that they have people coming to their door saying, hey, I'm here from the Democrat Party. And I know you're registered Democrat. We want to make sure you filled out your ballot. And we're happy to drop that off for you. And if you haven't filled it out, we're happy to help you do that today and help you get that done so you can vote. And the rules allow that. I don't think that should be legal, by the way. I think that's insane. I think it should be illegal, but it is legal. And if we're going to fight fire with fire, then we're going to set up machines that know how to do that. I believe that every single church in California, every Christian pastor should be having his church do this. If all the Christians in California voted, all the conservative Christians, we would win all the elections. And so I just think we need to learn to use the machine as it's set up, or we can just complain about the machine. And I'm not one who likes to complain. If I'm going to have a complaint, I want to try to have a solution. So I do think there are solutions. I just think we have to learn to fight differently. And it's hard for us because I don't like ballot harvesting. I don't want to ballot harvest. I don't think there should be ballot harvesting. And so to do things that we don't like, that we don't want to do, that we don't believe in really fundamentally, but that are legal, they're moral because they fit within the system set up by the lawmakers, we have to do that stuff. And we have to learn to get our hands dirty. And again, to be really clear, operating within moral, legal, and ethical boundaries, we don't have to like the rules, but those are the rules. If we don't learn to fight the fight that way, we're going to lose. Politics has become a blood sport in America. I don't like that either. But if we don't learn to fight like that, and again, I hate to say this over and over, but I just want to be cautious. Morally, legally, ethically, biblically, but fight as hard as you possibly can. You go to war with your enemies. And in this case, our political enemies are actually trying to destroy the country. A lot has changed since I got engaged in politics. I've been engaged in politics, I want to say about 16, maybe 17 years ago. And you could actually talk to your neighbors about politics back then. I mean, it was starting to get heated, but people didn't hate each other over politics back then. There was division. I don't want you to get me wrong. It's not like it was the, golden era and everything was easy, but it wasn't the hatred. Everything really changed. And I see there's enough of you on this call old enough to know this. When Trump ran for office, everything changed and people became insane about politics. And I would say mostly on the left, but that insanity is spreading to the right. And we have to be very cautious about that. I'll be specific what I mean about that too. This is something that's on my heart real heavy right now. The Tuckers, the Candace Owens, the Megyn Kellys of the world right now. And there's a whole bunch more, but they're the sort of leaders, online leaders of this brigade. Those people actually hate America. And they're against President Trump. They're against the Republican Party. Nick Fuentes is among them. Thomas Massey, a lot of people are really mad at me for saying this. Thomas Massey These are all the anti-Semitic, Jew-hating, America-hating brigade, and they're doing their best to destroy the MAGA movement. In my lifetime, MAGA is the best thing ever to happen to the country. I never thought we would have a president this good. I never thought we would have a president this bold. I never thought we would legitimately have a president that would shut down the Department of Education. I never thought that we would have a president that would sit with the media and call them out to their faces and refuse to take their garbage. I never thought that. I couldn't even imagine a President Trump, to be honest with you. I mean, in my lifetime, we had the Bushes and, we had guys like Mitt Romney and we had guys like John McCain. And those were the best that they put up for us. And they were the worst. They weren't the best. They were the worst, but that's what we got. And that's who we had to support. And then we got President Trump. And I don't think the man's perfect by any means. None of us are. And there are things that he does even that I disagree with. But I am wholeheartedly, absolutely, completely in support of him. And when I listen to people like Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly, Sean Ryan, and Candace Owens, who've now completely turned on the best president of my lifetime, who are selling him out, it makes me want to vomit. It is so bad. This is fratricide of the highest order. These people are working to destroy everything that you've been working for, everything that I've been working for, everything we've been working for. Nick Fuentes, the Nazi, now says he's a moderate Democrat. Megyn Kelly said this week, I've never really been a Republican, not a conservative. I mean, these are people who've been profiting off of us, off of our movement for years. Tucker Carlson profiting off us. And by the way, I say this, Tucker, with the greatest sadness. Tucker, I don't say this about many in the media. Tucker was a friend of mine. I mean, I literally socialized with Tucker. I went hunting with Tucker. And Tucker has turned into a demon. And so the reason I'm saying all of this stuff to you guys, it's really important that and I'm standing right with you guys. We're one and the same. I'm a grassroots guy just like you. We cannot get infected with any of this stuff. I love this country. I would die for this country. My son spent 4 years in the Marine Corps and pledged his life for the Constitution, that he would defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. There's literally nothing I wouldn't do for this republic to save this incredible experience, this incredible experiment in a constitutional republic, not a democracy, a constitutional republic. And I will stand and fight against anybody who stands against that. And especially against the posers who pretend to be pro-America, who are now in Moscow. I don't know if you saw Candace Owen in Moscow this week, cavorting with Vladimir Putin, cavorting with all these guys at a forum that is known to be a KGB hotbed, talking about how great Russia is compared to the United States. And Russia has evil leadership. I have nothing against the Russian people. They have evil leadership. And you hear people like Candace and Tucker and a bunch of these others now, all in unison saying, we need to be a multipolar world. Do you know what they mean by that when they say multipolar world? They mean they don't want the United States as the hegemon. They don't want the most moral country ever to exist in the history of the earth since Israel in the period of the judges. They don't want a country that, in my opinion, has been favored by God, in my opinion, that was founded because men who believed in God had the right ideals, that understood the Bible, understood their history. They don't want us to be the dominant force in the world. And they are now siding with radical Islamists. They're siding with the Communist Party. They're siding with Qatar. They are siding with Russia. I will fight that to my last breath. And I will fight to keep that from ever infecting Convention of States. You guys are too smart for that garbage. And to be frank with you, I don't really hear much of that inside Convention of States. And that's one of the things I'm really proud of is you guys aren't buying the garbage that's going on out there. Part of it that's really important to me is that you don't get black-pilled either. Everything isn't lost. We haven't lost the country. We're not, in my opinion, we're not going to lose the country. You know, it's always darkest before the dawn, to issue a cliche. It's not that I'm not worried. It's not that I don't fear for our country. I always do, of course, because Reagan said, right, that liberty is never more than one generation from being put out, that torch of liberty. Every generation has to fight for it. That's always true. It's always been true. I'm glad to be alive at a time when there's something at stake that's worth fighting for. I'm excited to be in the fight. I love being in the fight. I've now been doing Convention of States for 14 years. I've never done anything in my life for 14 years. Nothing, literally. I get bored. Like, I'll do something for 4 or 5 years. I'll feel like I understand it. I know how to do it. I'll run a business, whatever it is, particular law practice. Like, okay, now I know how to do this. I need to do something else. The reason I'm not bored of COS is because we're in the fight of our lives to save the Republic for everybody, for our kids, for our grandkids, for our nephews, our nieces, for our parents, for all of posterity, and honestly, for the whole world. If there's no United States of America, then there's a dark ages. That's what follows. There will literally be a dark ages. You will see totalitarianism march across the globe. The Iron Curtain will cover the entire globe. Look at Canada. Look at what's going on in Canada right now. Our northern neighbor, Canada, a complete and total now tyranny. They passed a law today that basically makes the Bible illegal. It doesn't say the Bible's illegal, but if you use the Bible and you read from the Bible in a way that offends somebody, like to say marriage is between a man and a woman, you can be arrested and prosecuted for that. In Canada, look at the UK. I don't know if you followed this trial in the UK. This poor guy got knifed to death by a radical Muslim, knifed him, claimed that he said something that was a slur. The guy was knifed multiple times. The police handcuffed him, put him on the ground, and he drowned in his own blood while they did nothing to the guy that knifed him to death. The UK, where it's illegal to fly the British flag, but it's fine to fly the Palestinian flag. The UK, where Muslims can march en masse and chant death to the West, but when people who love their own society stand up and try to support their own society and support their own faith and support their own country, they're shut down. The UK now, where literally every week hundreds of people are being visited by the police because they don't like their Facebook posts or their tweets. That's the world we live in. And the reason I say that is not to scare you, but because this is it. We live in the place that can stop all of that stuff. We live in the place where if we stand strong, by we, I don't mean like we in some general collective sense. I mean you and me. I mean, you actually matter in this fight. And by the way, it doesn't matter that you're in California. Like some people like California, oh, what am I going to do in California? We're all in this together. California is in it with Texas, and Texas is in it with Illinois, and Illinois is in it with New York and Utah. And it doesn't matter where you are, because this is no longer which state and which party. This has become a fight between good and evil. This has become a fight between communists, the people who want to destroy America, and people who love America, and people who love our history, and people who celebrate our history. And we don't deny the bad stuff our country has done, of course, because our country is full of humans. Humans do bad stuff. We know that. But this is still by far the best country ever to exist on the face of the earth. And I'm absolutely confident, and I will fight to my death saying that now and forever, as long as I have breath in my body. So what you're doing in Convention of States is you are making common purpose with people who believe the way that you believe. I don't think there's anything more important than that. And I'm not even talking about Convention of States in particular. I'm talking about more generalized. Like, you're on this call tonight, hanging out with people who love this country in a state where you get surrounded by a lot of people who hate this country, a lot of people who want to destroy it. You are making common cause with the warriors who are willing to step into the arena. You know, very often I talk about the framers and that they, in the Declaration of Independence, I don't know if you guys have heard this story, so I'm going to repeat it. I have a declaration up on the wall next to me, big on parchment, like tea-stained parchment, beautiful, hand calligraphied. It was given to me as a gift by a friend of mine. probably 10 years ago. The only thing that's unique about that Declaration of Independence is it actually has my signature on it, which you would never even notice if you read it. Like if you looked at it, there's, all the signatures are down there, but he had the calligrapher copy my signature, Patty's signature, a couple other of our friends, and our signatures are on there. And I read it pretty regularly. And I don't usually like read the whole thing, but I'll get up and stretch my legs and I'll walk over there. It's mounted at eye height. It's about yay big. And I'll stand there and I'll read a few lines or a paragraph of it. And I was nearing the end of it. This goes back probably 4 years ago. And you all know the line where it says, "We pledge our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor." Like everybody knows that line. I don't know how it gets in our DNA. Maybe we learn it as kids. But if I said lives and fortunes, you guys would all say sacred honor. If I said lives, you guys would say fortunes and sacred honor. Like it's in your head, it's in your heart. You guys know that line. But when I read it 4 or 5 years ago, I noticed something I had never noticed before. Was I noticed what they pledged it to. And I had never noticed this before. And if you think about what it would make sense, they are now declaring independence from Great Britain. They are starting a country. And so it would make sense for them to pledge their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the United States of America. It's not what it says, though. It would make sense, I would say. I have a big Betsy Ross flag up there on the wall, the 13 stars. Got a big 3x5 hand-stitched flag up there above that declaration. Maybe they would pledge their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the flag as a representation of the new country. That's not what it says. Maybe they pledge lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the Continental Army or to George Washington or to the government. And it's none of those things. It says, "With a firm reliance upon divine providence, we pledge to each other our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor." And when I read that, I can't believe I had never seen it in all of these years. It's not that I hadn't read the Declaration of Independence before. For some reason, I guess it's like when I read the Bible. I keep the Bible on my desk, always got a copy right here. And when I read the Bible, doesn't matter how many times I read a particular passage, I always notice something new. Like it depends on what's going on in my life because the word speaks to you that way. And I feel like that's what happened to me with the Declaration. That's what I needed to hear in that moment. That's what jumped out to me. And the reason I think that's so relevant for what we're talking about tonight is because that's what we're doing. We live in times that are no less dangerous than the times they lived in. They're different. We're fighting a different fight than they were fighting, but we're fighting a fight that is existential for the nation. We're fighting a fight actually that puts all of you at risk. Like when you participate in something like this, there's actual risk. We saw a bunch of the J6 people go to jail. I got harassed by the IRS for years after the Tea Party stuff. I mean, there's real stuff. People attack conservatives physically. People will try to shame you for being a conservative or a Republican or a convention of states person. There's real risk here. And I really believe, and you hear people on the left say this all the time, if we take power back, we need to put those people in camps, meaning us. They need to be re-educated. They need to be, there's real risk. I say that to you guys because I don't ever want to minimize what you're doing. Some people, and I used to say this when I first started in politics, well, what we're asking you to do isn't that much because, there's no war going on and you're not putting your life on the line. And one of my very good friends and mentors, Eric O'Keefe, said, stop saying that. It's not true. People are making real sacrifices and people are genuinely in danger, physically, financially, socially. Shame is a real thing. People will attack you on the internet and try to shame you out of being engaged. And so what does that mean? To me, what it means is those men who signed that Declaration of Independence, they knew what time it was. And they knew that when they signed that Declaration of Independence, that they were saying that they were pledging their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to the other people who were signing. And not just them, but to everybody else who was going to join the fight with them, to all the people they represented. And what they meant by that is real. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to say this thing, and then who knows what happens? I'll go hide in my barn when the redcoats come. That's not what they meant. What they meant is when it hits the fan and somebody calls and Paul Revere makes the ride or whatever it is, that I'm going to be there. Like I'm going to be one of the Minutemen. I'm going to step up. And when Mary calls me and says something real bad is happening in California, I'm going to respond. I'm not just going to be like, oh, well, I'm really sorry about that. I'm kind of busy. You got 50 states to worry about. It's not how we work. And so the way I look at it is when I say that I pledge my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor to you guys, I don't mean that in some kind of weird, broad literature sense. I just mean it. Whatever happens, I don't know what's going to happen. God knows what's going to happen. I don't know. What I know is that I'm going to fight, and that my prayer is that I go out like Paul, and in the end, I can simply say, I ran the race. I ran a good race, and I kept my faith until the end, and I fought as hard as I possibly could. You know, Braveheart's one of my favorite movies, and I love the character of William Wallace. And my favorite scene of any movie of all time is William Wallace riding up and down in front of the troops, and they're facing off against the British Army, and they're clearly outnumbered and out everything. These guys are trained, they got weapons. You guys are a bunch of farmers with pikes, and I was like, it's ugly. And he starts to lose some of the men. And some of the men start to turn away from the line and they start yelling at him. And they're saying, we're not going to fight. We're going to go home and we're going to live. Because if we fight here, we're going to die. And Wallace says to the men, you can go home and you will live. And on your deathbed, you'll wish everything you have for one more chance to come here again to this day and fight. And what matters to me is when it's my time, I just want to know that I never missed that chance, that I never walked away from the fight, that I did everything that I possibly could do to save this country for my kids, my grandkids, for posterity and the world. If I do that, then I've done my duty. That's all any of us can do. And you guys being here on this call tonight, I don't mean this lightly. I don't mean to sound overblown, but you're heroes. Most people don't vote, let alone actually participate, let alone show up at a call in the evening on a beautiful summer night in California when there's a lot, maybe more fun things that you could be doing. Only heroes do that. So when you guys go to bed tonight, when you look in the mirror before you go to bed, my prayer is that you will see what I see. Because when I look at you guys, whether you're just a name on the screen or you guys are showing your faces to me, and I really appreciate that you guys are heroes. Like I do what I do because you guys do what you do. And I get thanked all the time and I get all the credit all the time. And I really hate that. It's how it is, but I don't like it because I know the truth. And the truth is, when you live in California and you're willing to engage in the fight and you're willing to sign up and you're like your leadership there, you're like Mary, who gives so much to this cause, you're genuine heroes. And I appreciate you guys. Andrew, I don't know if that's what you guys were looking for. Mary, that's all I got tonight, though.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that.
God bless you guys. I love you very much, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Andrew, anything you want to add? Oh, I will unmute you. Okay, you should be able to unmute now.
That's not fair that I gotta follow that. I'll just say that right at the top. I was happy that I got to go first before came on. Now, I don't think there's much for me to add, and I think actually, we're running out of time, so I think we should talk a little bit about some of our team and what we're doing in California, because that's
All
that's
right.
where all of the excitement is, what each volunteer on our team is doing to advance our mission. So I'll give it back
I
to you,
want to
Mary.
I want to show you guys this video that shows some of the things that our team has been doing this year. So when I talk about year, I always talk about school year. So if you're a little bit confused about that, that's why. So enjoy what we've been doing, some of what we've been doing. Sorry, guys, there was audio on there, but I guess I didn't share my audio. We'll put that on our page. I'm not used to dealing with so many different tech issues at the same time, but I won't go back to show that again. All right, Rick, let me have you share. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just working it as a SIA, mostly in the background, trying to keep our database up to date and get things ready for our yearly event at the lobby day at the up in Sacramento. Um,
I want to
I'm
show
I'm
you
kind of
guys.
mixed. Hmm?
Yeah, I want to show you guys that there is a lot of different roles that we can do here. And Rick is the computer whiz that checks the addresses, phone numbers, make sure everything is cleaned out on the petitions that we need. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, that's basically it. Then put out the 120 sheets or documents with thousands of sheets every year for lobby day. But I wanted to add a couple things to what Mark had said because I want to go more on a little different level. Um, our Declaration of Independence and our separation from England was basically just rejecting arbitrary power, and arbitrary power with its um, very arbitrary hereditary transfer of power. But you look at the way the United States has been going in the last several decades, we're moving back to arbitrary power. We have so many laws, and they say prosecutional discretion, but it basically is just arbitrary power. They've
Yeah,
grabbed it in that way, and that's why I'm here is to fight
thank you,
against
Rick.
that. I do it by typing and fixing databases, but that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Dean, go ahead and share some of the things that you are working on. You should be able to unmute yourself. Yep.
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
So I had a presentation put together. I don't know if we have enough time for that, but basically I'm working with AI, ChatGPT to be specific, and it helps in the areas of creating articles. So like what would have taken me, maybe a few days to put something together, I still type something out and I put the ideas into ChatGPT of what I want it to do. And literally, you guys have probably used it. 15 seconds later, it spits something out that makes me look really good. And the thing about those tools is that anybody can use them. And I think we need to implement those as much as we can, incorporate those into what we do, because, it's like when the telephone was invented. We could avoid using the telephone and everybody else has one, but we're going to be left behind. So we've done that. And then also for cleaning up, we did a recent interview and I cleaned up the sound on that and it came out really good. There was a lot of background noise. So we're just implementing these high-tech tools into what we can do for comms.
Thank you, Dean. Erica, go ahead.
Hi. So what I've been doing with Convention of States is a lot through Patriot Academy, actually, just hosting events, hosting biblical citizenship. Um, what is the other one that we just did? The American
Building Liberty.
Rebuilding Liberty. Thanks. And we're doing Constitution Alive now. We've done Campaign Coach, lots of them, because what's happening in my city is like what Mark was saying. It's a spiritual battle. And going into our city council meetings and trying to talk and bring some um, truth to the public square, they don't want to hear what we have to say. And we kind of just get shut down just with our different opinion on things, how we see it. So, and actually, through these classes, we've been meeting a lot of people. So I've got to meet three of the candidates running for congressional districts in my area. I've got to meet the former mayor of my city. One of the people that went through one of my classes is like, she's from Russia, and she's been really speaking out and concerned because she sees a lot of the things happening here, which is why her family fled Russia in the 80s. Um, Against Christianity. So a lot of policies are being formed in our city that's like actually happening right now. So part of this is also just networking, getting to meet people who think like we do and getting behind those candidates and supporting them. So a lot of networking, a lot of praying. I've been getting a little glimpse into the Republican Party in my area. And we have we have the GOP. We also have the California Republican Assembly. The California Republican Assembly is more one of their values that you sign up that you agree with is our Christian faith. That it's the well also Judeo-Christian, like marriages between a man and a woman, that kind of stuff. And at their last meeting, they at the GOP, they wanted to get rid of Christianity in the Republican Party. And it was a member of the California Republican Assembly that was able to speak up and say, no, we're not going to do that. And based on how they had this conversation, they ended up keeping Christianity as part of a tenet of our area. So like that's actually happening right now. Like it's not even just it's not a matter of abstract, it's actually happening. So it's just really interesting. So what Mark was saying, uh, it's a fight between good and evil, and we have biblical enemies. Yeah, I would say that that's the big fight that we're in. So it's super encouraging to hear what he had to say and to see all of you guys here because it's a big support. So at these classes, I am able to talk a little bit about Convention of States. But right now, with the elections and all the things going on, there was a lot of talk of just getting people to vote, just getting the Christians to vote, just like what Mark said. That's what we keep saying at these classes. If all the Christians voted, we would make a big difference. In harvesting the ballots, it's like, okay, let's make sure we're registered. Let's make sure we go vote. Check that your vote was counted because they get cast out for a lot of reasons. So knowing how that system works too. So I'm just learning and trying to figure out where God wants me and what he wants me to do. Right now, he's just kind of showing me a lot of different things. So that's what I've been.
Thank you, Erica. All right, Josh, go
Hey,
ahead and share.
howdy, y'all. My main focus is getting the California team on podcasts and reaching out to the libertarian community. Last April, Mary and Jordan were on a libertarian podcast called Liberty Blues Podcast, and the host is Sean Osborne, awesome guy here in Los Angeles. That went very well. And then just last month, Mary and myself were on a podcast called Lions of Liberty. I had to fill in for Jordan, unfortunately. So we missed you, Jordan. It was a libertarian podcast as well. And the reason why I'm focusing on podcasts is because if you take the top five media shows on CNN, Fox, MSNBC, etc., that if you take the top five, they all together get on average 16 million views per episode. But if you take the top five podcast media shows, it's 26 to 43 million streams and views. So podcasting, reaching out to people on podcast, it's not the future. It's what is going on today. It's what's current. And in fact, Barron Trump asked his father to go on a handful of podcasts as well. Trump went on Joe Rogan's podcast and they got 62 million views. And even Bernie Sanders did the same thing, got 15 million views. And that's just one show. So, like I said, that it's not the future, it's today. Um, Libertarian, I identify as a libertarian. I'm a hardcore libertarian. And when I first heard the COS message, I felt like I was listening to a libertarian podcast. A lot of the complaints that Mark had, talking about, like the federal government and where we're at today. That's what you get from a libertarian message. So to me, COS and libertarianism is like twin sisters. Like they go hand in hand. And I think we're going to win over a lot of libertarians in the near future. The next thing I'm working on is kind of like a little hobby I have, and I can actually use the help from the general public. I started calling some talk radio. I've yet to get on to a show. It's challenging when I'm trying to pick my kids up from school. But yeah, if people want to try calling in talk radio, I think that'd be good. I think podcast is where it's at, but not everybody listens to podcasts. And the last thing, I'm in charge of the Convention of States YouTube page, which we just got going recently. And we're going to start putting out a lot of content here in the near future. We have some stuff on there. So if everybody goes over to Convention of State California, subscribe, like, comment, we're going to have a lot more content coming out very soon. I'm going to start a small show, a mini show on there. I'm going to start interviewing people on the streets. I'm going to interview people on the COS team. And then just different people. I already have an economist lined up, an attorney lined up, and a school teacher lined up, just talking about what's their relationship to the federal government and COS, and just seeing, what people's thoughts are. So it's just gonna be a very short mini show. So that's what's coming up, and make sure you follow our YouTube channel.
And like I said, it was so much fun. There's a getting on with Josh with some New Hampshire COS people, and Josh inspired them to continue working with the libertarians in their state. So in California, we can do a lot, and I'm so excited about what's going on. All right, Jordan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jordan, and I serve as California's Campus Coalition's director. Over the last year, I've been focused on building a statewide campus network for Convention of States. We've established relationships with universities and colleges across California, including Biola University, Pepperdine, Cerro College, and San Jose State, all the way up in Northern California. And we're continuing to expand that footprint. Um, as we've developed this effort, I've also been able to share what we've been doing with leaders from other states, as Mary just mentioned, who are interested in building, some campus coalitions of their own. So it's been exciting to see that growing interest reaching the students and helping younger generations engage with the Constitution, with federalism, and the Article 5 process. So the goal there is simple. It's to help students better understand the Constitution, the principles of self-government, and the tools that the founder gave us to peacefully address the challenges that we have in our nation. One thing that I've learned is that the students are often deeply concerned about the future of our country, but very few of them have ever been introduced to Article 5 or the amendment process as a path for reform. So when they discover that the Constitution has mechanisms for the states and people to lead change, it opens up conversations that are thoughtful and hopeful and just super rewarding. I also have recently, as of last night, launched a publication called the Amendment Lab. And through it, I'm researching and writing about constitutional reform ideas that could realistically, fit within the Convention of States resolution. And, Convention of States doesn't endorse any specific amendments, but it'll leave those to the states to work out in the convention. But I think it's valuable to help people explore what meaningful constitutional reform could look like. The first article was just published last night, and I've just left a link in the chat. I'd love your feedback. And if you know someone who enjoys thinking deeply about these constitutional issues or public policy or constitutional reform, I would love an introduction. I'll also drop my email contact in the chat. I'm the one who's been emailing you about this webinar. So you've heard it from me a lot in your email. And so one thing I would ask from this group is just introductions. You know, if you know a professor or a student leader, a university administrator, or on the policy side, or an attorney or a writer or a researcher or policy expert, someone who would be interested in these conversations on the writing side or the university side, I would love to connect with them. And those introducers helps to expand the campus network and our broader community of people who think seriously about this stuff. I'm just so excited about all the momentum that we've built up, especially in this last year. I mean, the momentum is truly gaining here in this team and in California, and I'm just so grateful to be working alongside all of you. So thanks, for joining tonight and for helping us to move this mission forward.
Thank you, Jordan. Daniel.
All right, I will make it very quick. I put my phone number and my email in the chat if you feel free to copy it. Should I share my screen or no, I don't have time for that. Um, I will summarize very shortly because I know we're kind of over time here, but I have discovered my people in Convention of States. I found the most amazing people, the most dedicated people, the most clear thinking people, and actually, if you guys don't mind, like Nick, Ryland, Lisa, whoever is here, if you can share your camera, it'd be cool to take a picture of everybody, like a screenshot of everybody before we drop off. So share your camera if you can, so we can get as many faces as possible. But what I felt very passionate about was about prayer and about connecting with churches. So my mission is to connect with churches, to activate the churches, to get the churches to think about their involvement in politics. And frankly, even saying that out loud feels foreign, especially in the Bay Area where I am. And I talked to a lot of churches that are not uh, they're not just not interested, they're completely against anything political. And so uh, we've decided to bypass them and go back straight to the Creator. And so we have a prayer team at Convention of States, and we pray for our representatives. Twice a month we meet and we call our representatives and say, what prayer requests do you have? And that team is about 3 to 5 people. Josh Castro is one of them. Mary joins. There's a couple of other people that join. And it's fantastic because we've had quotes such as, wow, that's amazing. Just pray for wisdom. And I would say about 80% of the people that we call are glad and they tell us something to pray for. So that's number one. Number two, we're also starting a prayer for California and for US. And so if you email me or text me, um, I will get you connected. I will get you invited, and that's anybody can join that. And if you're from your church, from your team, from your friends, you can join that prayer meeting. And we pray once a month, the third Thursday of the month. And then the third thing I wanted to mention is I've started a personal project just to go out and pray at the flagpole every day. For now until July 4th, and after July 4th, ideally take this tour nationwide and just to go and pray at the flagpole and have conversations with people. It sounds crazy, I know, but I've had some amazing conversations with people, and I've been able to just reflect on myself to say, God, what do you want me to do? Because I'm asking the question, what is missing in the USA? And perhaps what is missing is me. Perhaps what is missing is you. Perhaps what is missing is each one of us standing up and doing the tiniest little thing that we can. So uh, take my email me or text me, and I will be glad to connect you with either prayer, churches, or this What is Missing in America tour that hopefully will go all the way to San Diego and maybe even to Washington, D.C., God willing. Um, so I will fill you in more if you have thoughts, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, Daniel. I'll close this out here, but then we'll stay around if you guys have more questions. What I want to encourage you guys is to get involved with something. You're on this call for a reason. That means you're interested. You want to be involved. You care about what's going on with our nation. As Mark Meckler talked about, the declaration ends with the firm reliance on providence. We pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. And Rick Green from Patriot Academy took that lives, fortunes, sacred honor, and he turned it to an easy thing to remember of how to get involved. 222. So the first two is 2 hours of your time. 2 hours of your time volunteering for something. So all of us on the California team, we are volunteers. As state director, I don't get paid a penny. Drive into places. Jordan flew out to San Jose to do a college talk. I drove out 3 hours to do a college talk. We don't get reimbursed for gas. This is a mission of love because we care about this nation. Volunteer 2 hours of your time. Do a Patriot Academy class like Erica does. There, you're going to learn the foundations. And like I talked about before, we need to start with the foundation. So you do something, volunteer more from your church, homeschool your kids, help homeschool your grandkids, do something. Patriot Academy has a Constitution Day curriculum. So figure out what you are interested in and do that. And we can definitely use volunteers here if that's what you're interested in. And as you saw, I wanted you to meet the team so you have an idea of the different roles there are. I just put my email and phone number in the chat if you're interested in hearing more. The next two is 2% your fortune, 2% of your income. Give it to organizations that are going to continue liberty. Convention of States, Patriot Academy, something else that you can think about. Alliance Defending Freedom. These organizations that work to keep our freedoms here. Mark Meckler talked about the dangers of Islam. My parents originally came from Egypt. Okay, there is no other nation in the world that is free like us. We see the dangers of Islam in our nation, and we see the dangers of communism in our nation. We need that moral grounding. We need people that are going to fight to preserve what we have. The last two is your sacred honor. 2 times a week, put your name on the line. Okay, I'm not a social media person. Maybe you guys are. You can do that. Have a conversation with someone. Or even if you're having a conversation with someone, but they're saying something that's wrong that you don't believe in, don't go along with it. You don't need to be rude, but just don't agree. I read a great book a couple summers ago that said, we do not live by lies. Walk away. Don't smile. Don't nod your head if it's something that's false. Stand up. Put your name on the line. Speak up more. I had a conversation when I was getting my haircut last week about our elections. So put your name on the line there. Do not just be sheep with what is going around. So 222, we can all do something. And if you are interested in Convention of States, we would love to have you on the team for whatever your giftings are. I'm sorry the sound didn't work there for the video. We had a banquet. Well, I needed someone to decorate the tables. I needed to find a venue. I needed someone to cater. And so those are all people that were essential. Like Jordan talked about, people that are in colleges. We were able to get on Fox Sacramento because one of our volunteers, Luke, reached out to Fox Sacramento. All those conversations, have a conversation with someone, see what you can do. You can all do something. You all have spheres of influence that we will never be able to reach. You be that person in your sphere of influence to help preserve what we have, this liberty in our nation. So I'm going to go ahead and end our recording, and then we will stick around and answer